81-page dossier on his desk the day of the assassination. This was no accident, so he believes that there has to be intentional conduct. Whether the CIA actually approved his assassination, whether they were involved in it, or whether they stood by and watched it knowingly, he thinks they knew and that they have a role that they played in it. So it's quite fascinating, Austin.
So given that, that makes me wonder about Lee Harvey Oswald. How does he fit into all this if there is in fact a conspiracy afoot?
So there's one book, and you remember I told you when you asked me several times who should we rely on, and I said Jefferson Morley and this group out of Mary Farrell. And who wrote a book, and I used it actually to hold my microphone. It's this. It's called The Oswald Puzzle. It's a fascinating book because these guys look at Oswald and they say, well, what was he doing? And they give a very historical, here's what happened. And then they say, and now on the last third of the book, we're going to speculate based on everything we know of what we think happened. And frankly, they don't think he had anything to do with the assassination. He didn't even know what was happening until it did happen. And then he knew he had been framed by some of these Cuban exiles who were saying they were pro-Castro to him and trying to get him out of Dallas to Cuba that day via a hijacked plane of some sort. They've got a very specific set of facts that they put together in a way that they think that Oswald really was being used as kind of a patsy by this group, and he may not even been involved. I don't know that I would go that far. I still need to see a lot more. But the book is fascinating, and if people want to really dig into this, and a lot of people seem to want to really dig into it these days, they should get that book and read it. It's quite absorbing, and it has absolute. Here's where our documents are, and here's where this comes from.
So let's talk about Anna Paulina Luna. She has kind of come to the forefront of some of this discussion. She is the head of a new task force that's charged with declassifying federal materials. She recently hinted on Jefferson Morley's podcast that a, quote, smoking gun document, allegedly from a CIA whistleblower, implicates the CIA in this assassination. But do we need to be careful, James, with what some of these officials say? Does Luna, for example, have political clout to gain if these documents do expose a conspiracy?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, and she and Tulsi Gabbard and others are trying to make Trump look good in, getting this stuff out when other presidents didn't. And they have a right to say that. He, in fact, is doing that. It should have been done earlier. The CIA convinced him earlier, Biden and other presidents, to keep some of this stuff secret when they really shouldn't have. It was way overreach. So yeah, there is an agenda. But I'll say this for her: she was on Jefferson Morley's podcast last night. It was a 2-hour podcast. She started it by saying, "I'm going to break some news. Jefferson Morley is going to be my first witness," and that we've been talking with people who have tipped us off that there is a document that it was done by a CIA whistleblower that says the CIA is complicit. And that document's either in these 80,000 or we're going to find it, but we're not going to hold it back, and I'm letting you know it's out there. So yeah, we have to wait and see if it gets produced and what it says. But that's exactly what she said the other night when she was talking about this.
Well, the House, as you mentioned, will be holding a hearing, and that's going to be taking place on April 1. We know that it was originally going to happen on March 26th, but it was moved back to April 1st because of the number of documents coming out. Jefferson Morley, as you've been mentioning, is expected to be one of the first witnesses. What do they hope to be gained by doing a hearing like this?
They actually talked about that. And that whole discussion is online now at Morley's podcast. JFK Facts is what it's called. So people can go watch it. It's pretty good. It's absorbing. It's a 2-hour discussion, but he's really good. And what he and Luna talked about is not so much that they want to have a smoking gun, which everybody wants a smoking gun. Like, this guy pulled the trigger and this is the person who ordered it. Again, this is spycraft. You have to work it hard to see what connections are there and what people were doing. And it takes a lot of work. And So he said, and I think this is the right way to say it, that they want to educate the American people about the background here to put it in its context so that they understand what this information is that is coming out now. Too many people run into this stuff, and I see it online all the time. They throw it into AI. Oh, AI tells me there's nothing there. You have to know what you're doing when you look at it. And so they have said this is going to be an educational purpose type hearing. I'm kind of hoping they'll call Paul Landis too, who is the only living witness, who is the final witness from that day, who witnessed the assassination and came forward with this evidence about where he found the bullet, which to me is still the most important evidence in the last 60 years. The rest of this stuff adds color to who might have been involved, but his revelation says there were multiple shooters. It had to be, given where he found the bullet. So I think with Jefferson Morley, it's a great idea because he's a good teacher, Yale undergrad, Washington Post editor, careful journalist, but he knows how to put a story together and tell a story so that people understand its significance. I think that's what they're looking for.
Yeah, if you can just rewind and can you explain the Paul Landis piece to this? Because many people watching this have seen you and I do these interviews before, but maybe some folks are just getting clued in. This is their first time watching any coverage related to this. Tell us why that's so important.
So Paul Landis was Jackie Kennedy's Secret Service agent, and she went to Dallas that day, and so therefore he went. He was in the car riding behind the presidential limo. It was his first ever motorcade, along with 6 other agents who were on sideboards, including Clint Hill, who just passed away. And the shooting started. So he was a witness, both eyewitness, and he saw Kennedy's head explode. He saw the whole thing happen, 50 feet away from him. And really, he had severe PTSD from it. But he's also an earshot witness. So he heard shots coming from different places and at different, the first shot was not very loud, for example. The final one was very loud. So he has both that information. But significantly, when they get to the hospital and they're trying to get the president's body out of the limousine, and Jackie won't let him go, she's holding him in her lap. Finally, Clint Hill takes off his coat, puts it over the president's head because she didn't want anybody to see what she was seeing. They lifted him out. Paul, standing with Jackie, gently picks her up and gets her to move out of the limousine. And right behind where they had been sitting, up on the ledge, not on the bottom of the seat, but on the ledge, was this 2-inch pristine bullet, which had been fired by a rifle. It had rifle striations, but it was not deformed. So that's the bullet that we know hit Kennedy in the back. It's why it didn't sound as loud. It probably didn't have enough ammunition. Fell out of his back during the trauma of the final shots, and landed where Paul found it. That meant that hit him. It didn't go through him. The Warren Commission said that went through him into Conley, the single bullet theory. That didn't happen. So once we know that's the case, we also know from Zapruder that Conley was shot very quickly thereafter. There was not enough time, if Oswald was shooting twice, for him to cock his rifle, aim, and fire. It took about 3 seconds. Conley was hit within about a second. And so there had to be a second shooter who shot that second shot from behind. And that tells us we have a conspiracy. And that's the biggest piece of information.
Yeah, the Zapruder film, of course, is the one piece of video, the best piece of video evidence and the famous piece of video evidence that shows the assassination carrying out in real time. I got to ask you about the future. Will more documents come out? This is something I've asked you before, but it's something that a lot of people want clarification on. Our understanding is that we still have not seen the 2,400 documents that were found by the FBI earlier this year, correct?
That's correct. Those have not come out. These 13,000 came out. Director Gabby Tulsi
Gabbard, the director of national
I'm saying it yeah. Well, Tulsi Gabbard, I knew I was saying that wrong, has said that there are some number of documents that are under court order to remain sealed, and they're working on that. So there's still some more stuff to come out of the 80,000. But having looked through all this stuff, if you talk with Jefferson Morley, there's stuff that they still need to go find. There was one guy who was running the Miami office of the CIA named George Gionides, and he was, central figure in all this, and his files have not even been put into the hopper yet. So we know there's still a lot more to go. CIA in particular needs to go back and really scour files and look for things that just clearly have not been pulled yet. So I think there's a lot more to come.
One lingering